Welcome, football fans, to another episode of the Ultimate Fantasy Football Three-Way. It's more of a tag team this week with just me and Murr running it for week 3 of the NFL action. Say hello, Murr.
Hello.
We're going to start things off a little bit differently this week. We're going to start off with the San Diego at Indy game. It is a 51.5 over-under. The Colts are 3-point favorites. This is the highest over-under of the week, kids. This is a defense-optional football game at its best. This will be the number 1 stacked game, and these players will carry the highest ownership this week in daily fantasy. Luck is 7,600, and Crimea Rivers is 6,700. Melvin Gordon is the only running back in play, but I'm not sure he's worth the $5,700 price tag. He only put up 17 points on the Chiefs, and then only put up the 24 on the Jags, and the Jags looked the most inept I've ever seen a team look in a game in my life. That was awful. And if he's going to put up those low of point totals against teams that are just not playing defense, I don't want to play him against a team that can play a little bit of defense. And that's what I'm worried about in those sorts of scenarios. Indy's not one of those teams, though. I just don't know that you're going to get anything more than 24 points out of him. I think that may be his ceiling. Moncrief fractured his scapula, meaning Dorsett should be in play for the Colts at 4,400. T.Y. is at 6,800 and is yet to pay off his price tag this year. If you want to guess between the tight ends, Allen is my favorite at 3,800, and he seems to be the favorite of seeing the volume in the offense. Or you can try to chase the touchdowns and play Doyle at 2,500. As far as the San Diego side goes, you've got Benjamin at 5,200. If you look at it, he's all touchdown dependent. I understand he's putting up monstrous games, but guys, it's a mirage. 10 of those 32 came on one play last week, and the 2 touchdowns are 12 of those points. I'm not sure that he's the best play there. Williams is 4,300. He's also interesting, and Gates is 46. That's the order in which I like him. Murr, do you have anything to add to that game?
I do a little bit. I kind of disagree with you as far as I do like Melvin Gordon this week against Indy with their lack of defense. With Melvin Gordon being the only true healthy back that I do, he will have a good game, 25 maybe plus. The other player that you mentioned that I also like a lot is Travis Benjamin, mostly because, again, his target count is actually deceptively high. He's had 6 and 8 targets back-to-back, and again, without other weapons available, I do expect his target count to even go up a little bit higher. I think that it will be a shootout. They're going to have to come from behind. Somebody's going to have to be catching some garbage passes. It might as well be Travis Benjamin, and quite honestly, it may be Melvin Gordon as well.
My problem, dude, is that, like I said, I'm not sure that's not Melvin Gordon's ceiling. And at that salary, you're still okay at 5,700 if he puts up a 24. My worry is like, I can't envision a world in which a team plays less defense than what I saw out of the Jags last week. That's the real problem I'm having. But I totally...
Okay, well, but subtract Danny Woodhead's 10 points that he was managed to throw in, and there you go.
Well, right. I mean, but he went down real early in that game. I don't know, man. I get where you're at. I just, like, when everybody else is going to be there, to me it's just an easy fade with a guy that's ceiling is 24 points. So
definitely highly owned for sure.
Yeah. So, Murr, take us to the next game, which is Detroit at Green Bay. That over-under is 48 points, and Green Bay is currently a favorite, right?
I believe so, and really in that game, again, it's a couple teams that are mostly defense optional. Detroit's just looked pretty poor, or Green Bay's looked really poor on offense of late. But Detroit's D will fix all ills, so you never really know exactly what to do. Now, Aaron Rodgers is priced at 7,700. He's the second highest priced quarterback. And with that said, and him not having performed that great to this point, I don't know that I'll go there. Matt Stafford is interesting at 6,600. I really like Matt Stafford in the cheaper, pairing him with the likes of Marvin Jones at 6,200 is a lot cheaper than messing with Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb at 74 and 73 respectively. Now, Darius Slay is going to be on one of them, so I don't know which one. That's what scares me away from paying 74 and 7,300 for those guys. As far as running backs go, Eddie Lacy's still overpriced, even against this D. And really, Theo Riddick is an interesting play at 4,900 with Abdullah put on IR. I do expect him to be a man very similar to the Melvin Gordon situation, except Theo Riddick, I know that you like him a little more than you do Melvin Gordon. As far as the tight ends go, Ebron could be out. If he is, I'm probably going to go pretty heavy on Coles in a revenge game. He is 2,500, so I think that that's a good place to get a little value. And those folks that have been playing Jared Cook all year, he's 2,900 this year. He's been doing you dirty all season. If he's ever going to do it, it's going to be against Detroit. What do you think, Big Poppa?
Yeah, dude, you basically saw I am all about the theoretic play. And, like, first of all, it's a significant decrease over what I have to pay to get Melvin Gordon. And I have a ceiling, which I know to be at least 35 points. And that was when he was sharing duties with Abdullah. So, like, call me crazy, but I think it is the epitome of foolishness to play Melvin Gordon in the San Diego game for more money than what you could get a guy with a better ceiling. Like, if anybody wants to make that bet straight up, we can make a PayPal wager and put it on the line.
You got to play two, Papa. You got to play two.
Right. But I'm clearly probably leaving Gordon off of my two.
And again, theoretic will be heavily owned. So
yeah, as far as the other sides of that game, you have to like the Detroit passing attack, and it seems to go to Marvin Jones, and that's where I'm at there. On the Green Bay side, if we can get word that Jordy is locked by Slay, then play Cobb. If we get word that Cobb is going to be locked by Slay, then play Jordy. If we don't get word, you can take a guess, but that's about all there is to that. And you're like, did I pretty much cover everything that?
I think so. I think you hit everything I'd like to touch there. It's I think we're seeing things to eye to eye, and again, the Jordy Cobb. It's not that one of them couldn't go off, and one of them probably will go off. It's just a guess situation.
Right. And if you're comfortable guessing, feel free to guess. But I would rather not. And a game I don't think I have to guess on is this next one, which is Oakland at Tennessee. The over/under is set at 47 points. The Titans are currently 1.5-point favorites. Now, Tennessee has a legit run D, and both teams have suspect secondaries. I'm not interested in any of the running backs in this game. If you want that analysis, look elsewhere. You're not going to get it here. This game should be a shootout, and I love me some Derek Carr. Amari Cooper is pricey at $7,700, but has been close to paying off that price tag. Crabtree $6,000. He's also interesting. A super sneaky play here is Clive Walford, who's been putting games up in the teens, and he's still only $2,800. On the Tennessee side, Mariota is always a sneaky play. You just have to watch his turnovers. But as long as he produces, he should get you to that 20-point range, and he's underpriced comparatively to the rest of the quarterbacks. Tajay Sharp at $4,700 makes a nice, interesting play. Last week he was shut down by Darius Slay, as I suggested, and Delaney Walker was the beast play. Oakland does not have the shutdown corner. Sean Smith does not look like what he used to. I'm not worried about playing Tajay Sharp. I think you'll see his 10 targets plus as he has been. I think Delaney will also see that in what is a shootout. I have no problem playing both of these guys together at $5K and $4,700 this week. That's where I'm at on this game, is the aerial attacks on both sides. Murr, do you agree, disagree? How do you have this game breaking down?
No, I completely agree with the assessment. The only thing that I would add is I do have a little DeMarco Murray love. I do think he's a little overpriced is the problem there. But if this turns into an actual shootout, DeMarco Murray proved last weekend that he will catch the passes, especially with Derrick Henry being the backup. They're going to lean on DeMarco Murray to be a big part of the receiving game, and it could pay off. It's just at $6,300, it's a little more than what I'd like to pay to get there.
Yeah, and see, that's why I left him out, dude. In my opinion, the reason why I'm not playing DeMarco Murray is I'm finding money to get to a guy I like better, or saving money with a guy I like in just a little bit less of a spot. And to me, the trade-off is it's not close enough where I have to play him ever, and that's where I'm at. So, Murr, give us a little bit of a breakdown on this Baltimore-Jacksonville game. It's a 47 over/under. And Vegas currently has it listed as a pick'em.
Well, the Baltimore-Jacksonville game is definitely a possible shootout, as both teams are not all that good. Baltimore struggled against a backup QB last week, and I really like Bortles' value at $6,500. He's got a big red number next to him right now, so a lot of players may avoid picking up Bortles just because of that red number factor. Now, Joe Flacco at $6,100 is also in there because the Jags can't stop anybody. To me, TJ Yeldon at running back is overpriced at $5,600, real similar to DeMarco Murray, except DeMarco Murray can actually get there and TJ Yeldon can think about it and maybe dream someday he can. And as far as Baltimore's running backs, it's Forsett and West. Both of them are cheap guys, but you're guessing which one will get the touchdown. As far as their wideouts go, everybody's wideouts go, you're looking really Robinson at 7,500, pretty heavily priced, but the Browns really destroyed Baltimore's passing D there. And Hearns at 5,200 is always in play until they correct his price. Some folks will probably chase Mike Wallace at 5K, but again, touchdown dependent guy, and that's got to stop at some point. I prefer the target whore Steve Smith at 4,100. Again, sometime the variance is going to settle out, and Steve Smith should get his by getting in the end zone. As far as tight ends go, Julius Thomas really did some people dirty last week. This week he's 4,600. He is always in play. And a guy that is really underpriced is Dennis Pitta at 3,400. He had a big game last week. I think he'll probably be fairly heavily owned just because his price tag didn't really go up to where it should be. What do you think, Big Poppa?
I can't figure out why Jacksonville is not working together on offense the way they should. That team is a shell. I had that team vastly improved on offense and vastly improved on defense, and they haven't done either. And I had Baltimore being such a shell on defense that all they were going to do was pass the entire season, and we haven't seen either one of these things yet. We've seen Baltimore throw a little bit, but they haven't been behind in games like they should have been to rack up the massive fantasy totals. And Jacksonville's offense, you're getting points out of them being behind, which was not at all the way I saw them starting off the season. I was really worried about them. I don't know, man. It's a sneaky place to get people low owned, I think, because these teams haven't been going off. And if Steve Smith finally has the day he has, and if Allen Robinson and Allen Hearns can have the day they're supposed to have, you could make a lot of money just in this game. But man, it is straight guesswork at this point in time and conjecture until we see it out of either one of these teams.
I agree with Baltimore. They've had the downside of facing the Browns and some teams that haven't been very good, but they've also been kind of lit up by them, but not bad enough that they have to really throw away. So I don't know exactly, but I'm definitely going to be in this game.
Fair enough. Another game that I'm definitely going to be in, at least for pieces of, is the Arizona at Buffalo game. It's a 47 over-under, and Arizona is currently favored by 4 points. Now, the Bills fired their offensive coordinator after the offense was moving the ball, putting up points, and put up almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in an offensive performance. They turn around and fire that guy. Because clearly he's the problem, not the defensive coordinator that's letting what was once a great Bills team on defense just get scored on at will. I have no understanding of what's going on in Buffalo other than nepotism. It's a good thing he's your brother, Rob, because otherwise you would be fired. I have no idea why Rob Ryan still has a job in the NFL. This is his 4th stop with literally the league's worst defense after he gets there. I don't understand. I don't want any piece of Buffalo because of it, because I think that team's going to be playing in utter disarray. What I do love here, though, is the Cardinals stack, even though they're going cross-country and they're on the road. Palmer, 7,200. I know that's expensive and he's underperformed, but you're going to get him at low ownership percentage. If you pair him with Fitz and just leave it alone, and Elfitz is 6,900, I think you're good to go. All the other plays are guessing, other than the Rock, known as David Johnson. At 7,700, he hasn't performed up to the salary, to warrant the salary level that he's currently at yet this season. But one of David Johnson's monsters is coming. It's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of finding that 7,700 to fit him into your lineup. That's where I'm at. I want zero to do with Buffalo. I have no desire to be on it, especially with Sammy Watkins' gimpy foot. Tyrod Taylor's not playing up to his ability, and that team's just in shambles, if you ask me. Murray, your thoughts, bud?
Really the same thing. I do want to point out, I probably won't be on David Johnson much just because, again, he hasn't paid off. And really the real reason I wouldn't be is last week, Chris Johnson actually had more carries than David Johnson. Again, they're getting up. They're destroying teams. And once they do, there's no reason to run the wheels off David Johnson. If someone's going to get hurt, it might as well be Chris Johnson. And I don't expect any different this week. And I 100% agree, Rob Ryan is trash.
Yeah. The question is whether or not you're going to get your David Johnson points early enough in the game. And the one thing that I actually like here is that Buffalo is terrible against pass catching running backs traditionally, and that's how backs amass their points against Buffalo. But as bad as they look on defense, I don't know that that's true anymore. So how about you move us right along to Washington at New York? It is a 46 over-under, and the Giants are currently 4.5-point favorites at home.
It's another divisional stinker. You know, you got Washington and New York going at it. I think this game is prime for a shootout. Now, there are reports that Josh Norman will be locked on Odell Beckham the entire game. Pay attention to that, because if he is, things are going to probably get a little chippy. But Eli Manning, he's not bright, but he's not stupid. He's going to throw to his other weapons, and I do expect Cruz and Shepard to actually be able to do the damage, where I would stay away from Beckham and his 9,100 price tag. You know, Shepard at 5,500 is grossly underpriced, and Victor Cruz is even cheaper than that. So that's probably where I would lean a little bit. As far as the Redskins, Kirk Cousins should have a pretty solid game this week. Do pay attention to Deshaun Jackson at 5,900. If he plays, he's in. But there is talk that he may be out due to injury. If that happens, I am going hard on Gerson at 3,900 and Crowder at 3,800 as good sources of value. As far as running backs go, I don't really mess with Matt Jones so much, just because he is what he is. But Rashad Jennings has an injury. He's expected to be Poppa. What do you think?
Your Odell Beckham arguments, because of him being shadowed by Norman, are interesting. And I'm hoping that that's where most people go. But if we remember correctly, like, Odell Beckham has destroyed Josh Norman. And we've seen Josh Norman destroyed by Antonio Brown. And we've seen that defense not look comfortable when they tried to lock him one-on-one. It really throws that defense off. I'm not sure he's still not a play, and I'm not sure that the Giants aren't a stack across the board using Eli, Odell, and picking Victor Cruz or Sterling Shepard. And and if you get one of those Rain Man Eli 5 touchdown performances, all 3 of them might be worth it. But I doubt, we've only seen that a couple times out of Eli's bag. But if it's going to happen, it would happen this week against Washington, in my opinion. Just because I think Washington can hold pace. But if you're using that game narrative, what I would recommend is specifically to make the right plays out of Washington as well, because Washington has to hang with them for that narrative to come true.
Yeah, and I didn't mention Jordan Reed. You know, when you play Jordan Reed, you always just figure he's a guy that gets you 20, and that's really what he is. So if this is a shootout, he'll get you 20 for sure.
The next game we have on the slate for you is Pittsburgh at Philly. It's an over-under of 46 points, and Pittsburgh's currently favored by 3.5. This game could go off, and I love all the Pitt plays. People are fooled by the red number 1 next to the Eagles' defense, and I just want to tell you, don't be fooled, guys. They are not the number 1 defense in football. They are vastly improved, and that defense is much better. And part of it helps that Chip Kelly's not running them all to death during practice and in games. But the reality of the situation is they have played the Browns and the Bears, and those 2 teams will make any defense look like world beaters. I just don't buy it. Roethlisberger at 7,300 is the man this week. D'Angelo at 7,500 could put up another 30+. Brown at 9,600 is almost price exclusive for you to be able to roster him. But there's enough value out there that you can find ways to get him on the lineup, especially on a Pittsburgh stack in this game. The Eagles, in my opinion, are going to have to throw all over the place to hang in on this one, which makes Wentz at 5,500 a really intriguing option. Jordan Matthews at 7,100 is also a great option. But the sneaky play here is Nelson Aguilar at 3,500. That guy had 3 drops last week's game that would have resulted in touchdowns. And a couple of times they were batted away, right? But those still count as drops. If you give him those, he puts up a monster. And at 3,500, I'm not sure his target count isn't warranting him being in a position where Matthews is receiver 1A and he's receiver 1B. Now, normally we don't go into that. Normally we try to avoid a lot of 2s because they just don't put up the numbers or the target counts. But if the situation is what I think it is, where they're a 1A, 1B, they're both playable all season. And until Aguilar's price compensates for that, be on him at 3,500. Murr?
No, I 100% agree there. I like Nelson Aguilar a lot. I don't have a ton to add. I think you're spot on this one.
Cool. That's quick. It's just a fairly easy game to see, in my opinion. That brings us to Murr's next game, which is Chicago at Dallas. It is a 45 over-under. The Cowboys are 7-point favorites at home in Jerry's world. Murr, how do you see this one going down?
Now, the battle of backup quarterbacks, Dak Prescott along with Brian Hoyer at 5K. Brian Hoyer may be a nice cheap play for some folks. He is a competent, pseudo-competent quarterback going up against Dallas who can't stop anybody. So he may be a nice play. As far as running backs go, God, Ezekiel Elliott, they just cannot price this guy right. He's too expensive. You can't play him. Jeremy Langford has just kind of not found his way yet. I don't expect that to change with Brian Hoyer in there. I'm going to ignore pretty much all of the big names on the wide receiver list for both sides. They're unplayable at their price tag. And the guys that I really want to talk about are Eddie Royal at 3,500 and Cole Beasley at 32. Similar to the Nelson Aguilar play, those are players that are pulling out a lot more points than what their price tag is, and I suspect both of them will kind of keep on going right along there. At tight end, I don't think either of them have a guy you can play at this point. Unless you just want to get really fancy. And other than that, I like Dallas's defense just because Chicago is awful with Jay Cutler. I can't imagine they're going to be better with Hoyer.
Yeah, no, the Langford play might be an interesting one for value. He seems to be hitting that nice little value mark for those value backs. As long as they didn't jump his price up significantly. I haven't really been looking at him because it's the Cowboys, but
52.
Yeah, I mean, it's right kind of in that range where you're like,
Yeah, I just think DeMarco Murray's too expensive at 56. Jeremy Langford's too expensive at 52.
Fair enough, dude. I completely agree with that. Once again, I'd rather save the 400 and play Langford than I would Murray. That's just me, though. No, I don't have this game being very interesting from a fantasy perspective. There's just not a whole lot of goodness here. Which is, do you have anything to add?
Somebody's going to hit on an Eddie Royal or a Cole Beasley going ham. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Somebody is going to hit on some just nauseousness, some gross stuff coming out.
Right. So if you randomly guessed the random dumpster fire play out of that game, congratulations to you.
Go ahead.
A game where I think it's a little easier to see where the plays are is the next one up, which is Minnesota at Carolina. It is a 43 over-under. The Panthers are home favorites by 7. Well, we've seen AP's broken, and as the more we go into this week, the more news is he just is more broken than what we even thought originally. Torn meniscus, now possibly a torn LCL to go along with the torn meniscus. Man, the dude's just old, and when he was healthy, he didn't look like the running back, the AP that we know. That's going to open up value like crazy for Jerick McKinnon, who has been listed as the starter at 3,600, and the goal line back, Asiata, at 3,000. They're interesting plays, and people have been running on Carolina, so I'm not necessarily sure that I wouldn't be on the play. There's just other plays I like a little bit better. I don't want to face Carolina's defense at home with Bradford at quarterback and them not having any AP. The one play I do want to make on the Minnesota side, and one that I'll be all over, is Stephon Diggs at 5,100. Clearly, Bradford's found him as his favorite target and has no problem getting him the ball. We had seen this last year from Teddy Bridgewater getting Diggs the ball when AP was injured. When the running game isn't going like it's supposed to, Diggs is going to be the safety valve, and we'll see a ton of targets. Expect 10 plus a week. At 5,100, I don't think you can go wrong there. I don't want to pay for 5,300 for Bradford, though. And as far as the Carolina side, Minnesota's defense is good, but I don't know how they're going to respond to all these injuries and everything, or being on the road at Carolina. I do like Cam Newton, but at 7,800, he's super expensive. And if you get the 40-point game out of Cam, you're awesome paying that price tag. If you get the 20-point game out of Cam, you messed up. And that's Cam Newton's reality in fantasy football. The other weapons for Cam are all sexy. You've got to just love Olsen, tearing it up. I love him. I love his price tag, even though it's a little bit more inflated from last week. You also have Kelvin Benjamin, who is doing great things, and you get Fozzie Whitaker as a starting running back now that we have a hamstring injury, it's a foot injury for Jay Stu. I would be on the Carolina passing side, and I'm on Diggs. Other than that, I have no interest in this game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I kind of can see some people getting away with some gross Fozzie Whitaker, thinking that Carolina's going to get up and then sit and do nothing from there. Other than that, Stephon Diggs, that's about it.
Yeah. But Fozzie literally had his best game of his career last week, and it was like a 15. So, like, congratulations, Fozzie. Love you. Like, great salary relief, but
still worth $3,800, right?
Oh, for sure. Your next game is a little bit of an interesting one. My gut tells me the side I want to be on is not my side of my team. And that is New York Jets at Kansas City. It is a 42.5 over-under. The Chiefs are favored by 3 points at home, and I honestly do not know how that's the case. Murr, tell us about this game, please.
Well, the Kansas City D has not looked very good. They haven't been able to get any pressure on quarterbacks. I don't know that that's suddenly going to change, even with the crowded Arrowhead. The Jets, though, has been super on fire. Their D is pretty poor, though. And so I kind of like both quarterbacks in this. I think it could easily turn into a shootout just because the Jets D isn't that good and Kansas City can't mount a pass rush. I don't love Matt Forte this week just because I think he's a little overthrown. I really like all of the Jets wide receivers, especially the second-year player out of Nebraska, Anuna, for 4,800. I keep an eye on Brandon Marshall's health status. If Brandon Marshall is out, this guy will be up in probably every lineup that I throw. At the same time, on the other side of the ball, Jeremy Maclin at 6,000. He's coming off of a 15-target game last week. I don't think they're not going to stop throwing. They're going to have to keep up in this game. So Maclin, in my opinion, at 6K is in play. I don't get involved with the Kelsey guessing game pretty much ever unless it's super clear that he's going to have a monster. I don't touch it. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And similar with the Kansas City running back core, you're going to have Jamal Charles likely playing, probably not playing very much. Spencer Ware is a good player, but he's already going to have some touches taken away from him. So I don't know that he's worth the $52,000 to $56,000 price tag that's on it.
Well, I was just getting ready to say that I think the Ware play is an intriguing one. As reports tonight were possibly that we're going to get some Jamal, but most likely not. I don't know. Like, as long as there's no Jamal, Ware is a really interesting play in this game to me because with the pass rush of the New York Jets, you're going to see a ton of checkdowns, and it'll either go there or to the tight end, and I don't know, man. This game just scares me for a lot of reasons. And you're right, it could. And I feel like we've said this a lot with a lot of these games, but that's the reality of this week in the NFL. This could be a blowout, or then it could be a dumpster fire. And it really just depends on how the game flow gets set to begin with. And I don't know, it's one of those games that scares me. My next game, which is Cleveland at Miami. It is a 42 over-under. Miami is the biggest favorite at home at 9. The play here is clearly Miami against the Browns. They're terrible. And their third-string quarterback. Like, I don't even know who this guy is. Do you even know it?
Sign him off the street.
Yeah, sure. What's his name? Kessler?
Kessler.
There you go. I honestly did not know his name. I just knew the second I heard that they were down another quarterback, I was like, I'm done with the Browns, period, fantasy-wise. Now, the other play that I like with Miami's defense is Jay Ajayi. He's super cheap, is the starting running back with Foster out with a hamstring injury as well. Guys, I'm playing Ajayi and the Miami D on basically most of my lineups, and that's my starting point this week. Unless something gets crazy here, I think that's just the smartest play and the only plays I want to be on in this game. Murr?
Yeah, 100% agree. I think some people could try to get cute with Crowell, but at 4,700 and no reason for Miami to give a damn about the passing game, I wouldn't touch any of it.
With a third-string quarterback, aren't you just putting 8 in the box every time, going one-on-one on the outsides, and just be like, dude, if we get beat the 1 out of 10 times we're going to get beat, we'll then bank on a third-string quarterback to get the ball there?
Right, especially, Corey Coleman did fracture his hand today, their stud wide receiver, so there's another thing to add to it. I think there's maybe a slight argument you could say Landry at 6,600 for Miami could get there.
Yeah, that's what my ultimate worry is that Cleveland can't hang no matter what. So none of Miami's plays other than Ajayi are even worth it. So, Murr, tell us about a game that looks a little bit more interesting, but not really. It's just one side of the ball. Because the Rams are a dumpster fire in the L.A. at Tampa Bay. 41 and a half over under. Bucks are 5.5 point favorites.
Well, the note that I have on this game is I don't like this game. It's awful. And if you want to throw up in your mouth, play Case Keenan at 5K. Other than that, everybody else is overpriced. Everybody else is unplayable. And that's what this game is. Good luck if you want to throw a dart out there towards Mike Evans or something. And if it pays off, you're a donk. But, I wouldn't touch anybody in that game.
Yeah, no, I love the Tampa Bay side, but I don't know what to make of it. The Sims play is really interesting with Dougie all banged up with the knee and foot, whatever the heck his problems are. And he's a nice value. That's about it. I like Charles Sims. You could also stack Tampa Bay if you have them just destroying the Rams.
But I could also. That's the thing.
Well, they did destroy the Falcons, but the Falcons at least
can score.
Right, that's the problem. The only narrative in which I can see the Rams scoring is through their running back that they can't get going and will eat way too much time off the clock to get any of that offensive game. Yeah, I'm with you. Just paid that game. Now, Denver at Cincy is one of the lowest over-unders at 41, and Cincy's favored by 3.5 points, but I feel like this over-under line is way off. I feel like it's just way low. Now, it could be that Denver doesn't really have an offense and has a really good defense, but, man, C.J. Anderson is 7,300 and is clearly the best play here. Disappointed people last week and where he should have had at least a 30-point performance and didn't. I don't know that that's not going to drive down his ownership percentage. And against Cincy, he might catch more balls and be more valuable, but 7,300 is extremely expensive. As far as Simeon and their passing offense, I don't know what to do with the Broncos. And as far as Cincy, the Red Rifle, he's better at home, but I wouldn't play him against this Denver defense. And I don't want AJ against this Denver defense, and I definitely don't want the backup third-string wide receiver against this Denver defense. That's my problem with this game. It's if it goes off, I can see a world in which it does go off, but it's going off against all probabilities. And that's why I don't really want any of the Bengals side. And the only piece I do want is C.J. Anderson, and he's too expensive. Your thoughts, Bud?
Slightly owned game that I want no part of. I 100% agree. I think, if you really want to try to get C.J. Anderson and hope that he will have that blow-up performance, because he's capable of it, because he gets receiving, you just better hope that game stays close and he can be used. Otherwise, I don't know what the point is.
Right, and we've got a gimpy Demarius. Emmanuel may or may not, get the amount of balls he should, right? That's the problem with this Denver offense.
I mean, let's just be honest. That Denver offense is the Kubiak offense, which we all remember Matt Schaub back in the day in Tennessee. I mean, it is what it is. Your quarterback's going to get 220 passing, maybe a touchdown, maybe two, probably a pick or two, and that's all they want him to do.
No, you're absolutely right. In Gary Kubiak's offense, the quarterback is going to score 15 points fantasy-wise every week, and he might hit 22 if he throws for 2 touchdowns, but most likely he'll throw for 1 and get you right at that 15 line, and that'll be the end of it. And just like when he was in Texas, you wanted the running back part of the time, about 50% of the time. Another half of the time, you don't want anything to do with any of that team.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Murr, cover the dumpster fire game for us, the last one that we haven't covered yet. This is utter trash. I don't know how Vegas figured any of this out. San Francisco at Seattle is a 40 over-under. Seahawks are favored by 9.5 points, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is more points than that offense has scored all season.
They're going to play a ball game. Stuff's going to happen. Seattle's at home. There is a world where Russell Wilson gets going. I don't live in that world. Maybe, if you want to, you can make a Carlos Hyde argument at 4,400, as bad as Seattle has been against running backs. And, he may get there on catches, but that's it. Anything else, I can't even fathom. This game is gross.
Yeah, I would love to be able to play Doug Baldwin and Russell Wilson here, but the Seahawks line is terrible. They are so bad. Russell Wilson is running for his life, and Doug Baldwin doesn't even have enough time to get out of a quick slant. like to get into a quick slant, excuse me. And that's bad. That's like you don't even give your quarterback 3 seconds to throw the ball and the receivers 3 seconds to get off the line. I just do not know what to make of Seattle or the San Francisco team. It is messy. I will be fading it as well. I don't even like Seattle. Part of me wants to play Seattle's defense, but then again, no. Like, can you play a defense when their offense is that bad?
Hey, I don't know what to do. I don't want any piece of that game.
Yeah, and I think we did a good job throwing the crap games that we didn't like at the bottom of the slate. Well, guys, that wraps up this week's show with the Ultimate Fantasy Football Tag Team with just me and Murr rolling at it. Let us know what you thought of the new, little bit different show format. We're open to suggestions if you wanted to try something different, or if you have something suggestion that you think would improve the show. We're all about hearing it. Remember, we love to hear your feedback. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Anything to add, Murr?
No, I think you've hit it all. Subscribe definitely, and good luck playing some of that money and hopefully making a little bit.
Oh, and all you football fans, if you're wanting to try out NASCAR, the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show will be up Friday evenings. It'll give you all the information you need for NASCAR, get you involved in that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great week. Until next week. Later.